So let's talk about Bertuzzi and why I think he should do a 1 year contract for his own benefit of trying to get the most amount of money. So, or potentially go in long term, but I think the short term would be the better option for him right now. Just because of where we're seeing him, kind of similar to what we're seeing with what Eisman did when they were going to arbitration because they needed to extend some of his, try to figure out some of the cap issues and trying to figure out what the team's future actually looked like and what part Tyler Bertuzzi played in it. So getting into it, so let's go to Bertuzzi's stats right here. Let's jump over to the screen. So we're looking at Tyler Bertuzzi second round, bottom of the second round. Actually, looks like he's actually going to be 28 this up and coming February. So by the time the trade deadline actually comes, he's going to be 28. Which means he's an older player. He's still on the right side of 30, but he's an older player. But you can see that he does perform well, especially in the Red Wings system as well. This is started to break out. He didn't do his first 7 games didn't look so great, but then he almost half a point per game per player right here, playing for the Wings almost almost a little over half a season, and then you have some issues. So mind you, the thing about Bert is that he does have back issues, so that's one of the things you have to consider when looking to sign a contract with him or go long term. But you can see he performs. He's got 47 points, 73 games, 48 points, 71 games. The 20 goals is a nice touch as well. So you can, and then of course, talking about last year, 68 games played, 62 points, a real breakout year for him. It just really phenomenal. We were really happy for him when he was playing that well. So, and 30 goals were right in the last game. I remember watching that, and I was really excited for him because he got that 30th goal. So, but now you can see what the problem is with looking at this season. He's only played for 15 games, only has 5 points. And now the reason is because he really hasn't had an established position in the lineup because he had 2 injuries this year. He had both his hands, I believe it was, or one was wrist, one was hands. He had surgeries. He's been out, so he's kind of getting his feet under him still. It's also under a new coach who's a little more defensively minded, right? So Tyler Bertuzzi is more of a grit and grind type of player, which is we're gonna get back to actually because it's fortunate because it's a great player. You love that style of player. That's the type of player that you want in the playoffs. The problem is Red Wings are currently out of a playoff position right now, and they're not looking to get there either. So with that, you're looking at a player like Tyler, and you want his contract's up. So if you go to his cap right here, so you can see they went to, so that the one thing that's crazy is that there was 28 contracts that were up to go to arbitration. 27 of them were settled prior to arbitration actually happening. This is the one where we saw Steve Yzerman and Tyler Bertuzzi and his agents go to arbitration, and so what they landed on with the 4.75 cap hit or that per year paid, that is what they landed on. It's a $9.5 million contract over 2 years. That is what the arbitrator decided, and that was what both parties had to go with. So now that does take him up to a UFA status, which means that he's out to get his biggest contract. Like I said, he's 28 years old, so he's looking to get his biggest contract of this is the time he's going to get his biggest contract, right? This is why I said you can go get the 1 year contract. So this is also betting on himself too, right? This is kind of similar to what we're seeing with John Klingberg right now. So with John Klingberg, defenseman, different position, of course. Let me jump over screens. So with John Klingberg, there's a defenseman for the Dallas Stars. The Dallas Stars offer him a $7 million by 7-year contract at the start of the season last year. He said no. I think I can go to UFA and get more money. So he waited until he played out with the team, the Dallas Stars, and he played it out, and then he became a free agent. And it was day 1 goes by, day 2 goes by. He's like, oh my God, there's no market for the type of player that I am. He's very offensive, but he's definitely a defensive liability. And so John Klingberg went out and signed a 1-year contract with the Anaheim Ducks for $7 million. And now he is currently betting on himself, right? He says, "Hey, I'm here. I'm gonna make the money. I think I'm worth more than $7 million over several years." Went out. I'm gonna bet on myself because he didn't want the Stars contract. He's like, I'm gonna bet on myself, and he's now performing quite poorly with an Anaheim team who is bottom 3 in the standings right now. So that is the plus and the minus of betting on yourself. You have to perform, and John Klingberg is unfortunately not performing right now, and so especially on a team that is just not doing that great at all. I think they have like 5 regulation wins this year, and there's 46 games in. So those are either loss, or overtime wins. The only 4 actually in regulation wins, which is not a recipe for success. So they're definitely tanking for Bedard. So that's where I'm talking about with Bertuzzi. If he wants to go out and says, hey man, I'm gonna go out, I'm gonna sign a 1 year, $6 million, $6 million. I mean, I think it'll probably be more closer to 6. I think someone will pay it for a 1 year contract for that, and he can go out there and prove himself. And then at that point he'll be 29. And then he can get a 4 or 5 year contract, maybe 6 year, depending on how well he does, right? Maybe he performs at a point per game. Maybe he hits 30 goals again, and he can get 7.5 million over 4, 5, 6 years. Like there is a world where he can do that, and but it is not the safe option. And that's what Iceman's realizing. And one of the reasons that they haven't pushed for Bertuzzi contract is because he is riddled with injuries. So you can see he got injured twice this year, and he had back surgery, right? So he had back surgery, and so you're not sure what's going to happen with him. You're like, is he going to perform? What's going to happen? And so you're with a player that's very injury prone, plus the style of game that he plays. It is crucial that you make the proper decision, that if you're going to keep him long term, you don't overpay. Or if you do extend him, you're not paying a ton of money. This isn't an $8 million contract kind of guy. He's not going to Larkin money. Larkin's going to be between like $8.5 to $9 million. Now that there's on the news, read the news. I would love to do. I'm probably going to do another Larkin contract video. But Bertuzzi's probably going to get 6.5, $7 million. But maybe it's $7 million. That's higher than I think he's worth. But I think he can get a $6 million, 1 year, $6 million deal, no problem. He is a great player. He's a strong player. He's in the dirty area. He's your playoff guy, which is one of the things the Red Wings are looking at. Like, hey, is this guy of value? But right now, he doesn't have the value because he only has 5 points in 15 games because he's been so hurt, and the team doesn't want to trade for that. So before, Red Wings fans, we thought that as a fan, I thought, that we can get a first-round pick and probably a prospect as well. Maybe a first round, like a third round. He was very valuable at the start of the season. Now, they don't have enough time. They have 5, 6 weeks to figure out what type of player he is, if he can still perform. And they have to base that around whether they want to keep Bertuzzi or if they want to trade for him. The problem is, I think, if you sign him long-term, either team, right, Red Wings or whoever decides to sign him, go back to injuries, right? You're looking at he can't perform, but he plays a rough game, so he might get injured again. Back surgery. And this is, for me, one of the reasons that I'm pro trading Bertuzzi. Bertuzzi he's definitely open to saying, he said in quotes that he is open to extending long term, and doing a long term extension with the Red Wings. But the issue is, when you look at position and the type of player that you have in Bertuzzi, he is a great player. He's a great playoff performer. The issue is with the Red Wings, they do have players coming up. So we can actually look here. Let me jump over screens. This is a great article. This is the Red Wings top 25 prospects. It's the midseason analytical on HockeyWriters.com. I'll link the site below. But you can see just in position. So Bertuzzi plays the left side, right? And so he's playing that rough and tumble game and that hard nose, getting in the dirty areas, right? Getting in front of the net, blocking shots. Hence the reason he had 2 injuries this year on his hands and wrists. You kind of look at those players that are coming up on the left side, and you can see their left side is stacked, right? You have 5 guys that are coming up in your prospect system, right? I think Robert Mastromoni and Kirill Tutayev are not as big of players anymore. They were drafted a bit ago, and their development hasn't been as good. But actually, if you and read the article too, Dylan James and Carter Mazur are similar players to Bertuzzi, and so when you have guys that are coming up that are going to be cheaper, I think Carter has his ELC. I don't know if Dylan James has his ELC yet, but Carter Mazur, I'm pretty sure, is already signed. So you have these players that are coming up, and they're going to be similarly effective. Cross Hannes as well, also, but he's on the other side. a similar player to Bertuzzi, which is one of the reasons I think that you should try and get the value for Bertuzzi. Now, if someone's going to say, hey, we want a 5th or 4th round pick for Bertuzzi, I wouldn't do it then. But what I'm saying is that there is people coming up in the system that are just as effective or potentially just as effective as Bertuzzi. And so I don't see a need for him long term, and that's the bummer, you know. And I think wingers unfortunately come as a dime a dozen because they're always available. Which is one of the reasons that if you can get a good value for him, then I think you should trade. I think if you got a second plus, I think that then you trade him. I think that may be worth it in my opinion. Because just the injuries it's just a little bit frustrating. And I do really like Bertuzzi. I think he's a great, gritty player, but I just don't know if he's in the long-term plan because of also you got to think about where all the young prospects are, right? The majority of the prospects in the Red Wings system are Cider and down, right? So 21 and younger, right? You're looking at Bertuzzi as a 28-year-old. He is going to be he's already a veteran in this case because all the young guys that are coming up are just that is your core that you're going to set her around, right? So you want and Larkin's younger. I think he's 25, 26. So he is a little closer to that core that you're going to be building around Raymond and Cider. But Bertuzzi is just kind of later, and it's not Bertuzzi's fault. It's just how the dice rolled, unfortunately. And so my thought is that if Red Wings want to keep him, if you're going to keep him, which I think would be great. If I'm Yzerman, I want him to sign for 5.5 for 5 years. That's for me. It's a 27.5 contract. Or I think if you're Bertuzzi, you say, hey man, like I appreciate it, love being around here. I think I'm gonna go try free agency. Great, go try and get your $6 million. Do a 1 year for $6 million. Because I don't know if he'll get the same kind of contract from the Red Wings. He might, or from another team. That I'm thinking with the 5.5 over 5 years. I think that brings him stability. And if it was a 5-year contract, he might use 28 now, right? So let's say he signs that. That takes him until he's 33, which is an older player, right? You maybe probably even get 6 years in there. If you had 6 years, $5 million, maybe 6 years is a little long because of his injury history, right? But if he was willing to take less money, let's see, he's at 4.75 right now. So if he took 4.75 over let's say. Yeah, like 5 years, 6. I do 6 years at 4.75, or let's call it the $5 million. $5 million at 6 years. I'd probably do that. 6 years is a little long. I'd probably rather do 5, but that's about what I would take him, just because there are other players that are similar caliber to Bertuzzi. So, again, I said I do like Bertuzzi. I think he's a great player. I think he's a lot of grit and heart to this team. I really enjoyed when Todd Bertuzzi was here as well as Uncle. I think he's a good staple, but I think, unfortunately, I'm pro younger core. I would want to keep Larkin, right? To me, he's the Yzerman of this era, where Yzerman didn't win his first cup until he was like 32 or something like that. Where I think Larkin can be that guy, that veteran captain that you're relying on, that you're leaning on. And so that's me, and I think they're close. So I think you just keep Larkin. He's the veteran guy. You sell off majority of the pieces, and you just build around that core of Raymond and Cider. That's my view, because you're gonna have you have Kosa, you have Cider, Edvidson, Raymond, you have Soderblom. There's all these. Berggren is also coming up, or is established in the lineup. So that's your core that you're going to be building around. That's the ones that you're going to be having an established team around. So, again, I don't know what's going to happen, but I'm excited either way. I like it. You have Red Wings are in a good spot where you're not sure if you want them to be the playoffs, right? But there's this weird, like, who do you keep, who do you get rid of, who's the long term, who's gonna help you get to that next step, right? And we're at this point where they need to clear out some older players that aren't that next level, right? We're not going to find a Nathan McKinnon, right, or like a Matthews or a McDavid, but we can't get average players. And I think Bertuzzi is slightly above average. I think he's good. He's not. It's not as unique as we'd like him to be. But to me, he's a great third line winger on a playoff team, potentially second line, right? Because he's gritty. Okay, but on a team right now who is not in a playoff push and not going to be going far in the playoffs at this point, it's not worth it. I think Bertuzzi should move on and get the bag where he can. So, anyways, let me know what your thoughts are. Tell me I'm wrong. Love you, and hit like and subscribe. Like and subscribe. Appreciate it.